The distress beacon had been broadcasting for 11 days. Ambassador Lyra Vera of the Confederated Hegemony had sent the signal herself, hunched over a cracked console in the ruins of what had once been the Veth Prime diplomatic station. Around her, the wounded lay in rows, Valorians with their silver-tipped limbs wrapped in torn fabric, Dreth children silent with the particular stillness that came before the end, Kasari medics moving between bodies with too few supplies and too much grief. The Rykathar had come without warning, as they always did. 3 fleets. 600 warships. They had descended on the outer hegemony corridor like a tide of black iron, burning colonies, cracking orbital platforms, stripping everything of value and leaving behind only ash and the sound of things that used to breathe. Veth Prime had been the third world hit. Lyra had barely gotten the beacon running before the main power grid collapsed. She had requested medical support, biosynthetic ration drops, refugee transport, the standard humanitarian package the hegemony dispatched to disaster zones. She had listed the casualties. She had estimated the dead. She had transmitted every detail with the bureaucratic precision her post demanded. Then she had sat down in the dark and waited. On the 8th day, one of the Dreth children died. On the 9th, a Kasari medic, a woman named Teva who had not slept in 4 days, collapsed from exhaustion and did not wake up. On the 10th day, the Rykathar returned with a smaller scouting party, just to confirm their work was complete. Lyra had watched them from a cracked viewport, her jaw tight, her hands curled into fists around nothing. On the 11th day, the sky cracked open, and it was not what she expected. The lead ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a fist through paper. It was enormous. Lyra had seen hegemony cruisers before, long, elegant vessels built for ceremony as much as function, their hulls etched with the cooperative symbols of 14 species. Beautiful things. Diplomatic things. This was not that. The vessel that tore into real space above Veth Prime was a wedge of dark gray alloy 3 kilometers long, its hull scorched from 100 engagements, its silhouette angular and brutal in the way that things built to survive are always brutal. The name along its flank read, in large, unpretentious letters, UNSC Relentless. 14 more came behind it. Lyra pressed her face to the viewport. Her translator implant struggled with the calm channel that suddenly blazed to life, carrying a voice that was calm in the particular way that calm becomes dangerous. This is Admiral Darian Voss, commanding 7th Response Fleet, Earth Naval Command. We received a humanitarian distress call from this sector 11 days ago. A pause, barely a breath. We apologize for the delay. Transit took longer than projected. Transmitting landing coordinates for medical units now. Please advise on current threat disposition. Lyra fumbled for the comm panel. Her fingers found the transmit key. Admiral, this is Ambassador Lyra Vera, Confederated Hegemony. We requested medical support. Supply drops. Refugee, she stopped herself. Looked at the fleet spreading across the sky like a second horizon. I did not request a battle group. No, Ambassador. The voice was not unkind. But you described a populated civilian zone under active military assault by Rykathar forces. Earth doesn't send doctors into a war zone without making it not a war zone first. She didn't have an answer for that. Admiral Darian Voss was not what she had expected either. When the shuttle set down in the rubble of the station's landing bay, she had braced for something loud. Humans often performed their authority, she had found, filling space with posture and volume. Instead, Voss stepped out in a plain gray fleet jacket, no decorations, hair cropped short and starting to silver at the temples. He was medium height. He had the eyes of someone who had stopped being surprised by catastrophe but had never, apparently, stopped being angry about it. He looked at the rows of wounded. He didn't look away. He counted them the way Lyra had learned to count them quickly, practically, filing each number into whatever internal system military minds used to transform grief into logistics. Medical teams are 30 seconds behind me, he said without preamble. What's your critical shortage? Biosynthetic plasma, Valorian blood chemistry is? Already flagged in your beacon data. We brought synthesizers. He turned to a young officer at his shoulder. Tell Dr. Hamada to prioritize Valorian triage first, then the Kasari. Back to Lyra. Where did the Arway-Kadar scouting group go after their pass yesterday? She blinked. You know about that? We've been in system for 6 hours. Passive sensors only, didn't want to spook them into a bombardment before we had ground teams down. His expression didn't change. Where did they go? She told him. He nodded once, said something quiet into a comms device on his wrist, and within the minute Lyra heard the distant sound of human fighters breaking atmosphere, a low, rolling thunder that moved across the sky like a change in weather. She realized, in that moment, that she had sent a distress call. And something had answered. The Battle of Veth Prime lasted 4 hours and 11 minutes, which was, by Arway-Kadar standards, not a battle at all. The Arway-Kadar were experienced predators. They understood force ratios, tactical withdrawal, and the simple mathematics of when a fight was worth having. What they did not understand, what they had never needed to understand before, was humanity's particular relationship with the phrase, "not our problem." The Arway-Kadar commander, a being called the Vorith 7 Crest, had seen the human fleet drop into the system and made a rational calculation. 14 warships against 600 was numbers that did not favor the newcomers. The Vorith had fought larger forces before. This would be expensive, but manageable. He had not accounted for what kind of ships they were. The Relentless alone had taken fire from 40 Arway-Kadar vessels in the first hour. It had not retreated. It had not broken formation. It had accelerated, driving into the Arway-Kadar line like something that had been engineered specifically to eat anti-ship fire and keep moving, because, Lyra would later learn, it essentially had been. Human warships were designed around a simple philosophical premise: the enemy will try to kill you, so build something they cannot kill. The Arway-Kadar fleet broke on the 3rd hour. The Vorith 7 Crest, broadcasting on open frequencies in a tone that Lyra's translator rendered as something between fury and bewilderment, demanded to know what suicidal, territorial madness had driven these creatures to intervene in a private Arway-Kadar acquisition. Voss, also on open frequency, replied simply, "You were hurting people who asked for help." The Vorith had no framework for this. They tried again, "These are not even your species." "No," Voss said. "They're not." He cut the channel. The Relentless fired its main battery. On the 14th day after the beacon, Lyra stood beside Admiral Voss on what remained of Veth Prime's northern plaza while human medics moved through the camp with quiet, efficient purpose. A Valorian child, one of the ones who had been silent for so long, was sitting up, accepting something warm from a human doctor who was explaining, through a translator unit, what broth was. "I have to ask you something," Lyra said. Voss glanced at her. "Ask." "Earth is not a member of the hegemony. You have no treaty obligation here. No territorial interest in this corridor. The Arway-Kadar are not even a threat to your home systems." She watched him. "Why did you come?" He was quiet for a moment. Not the silence of someone calculating an answer, the silence of someone who found the question genuinely puzzling. "Your beacon said there were children dying," he said finally. "And people trying to save them without enough supplies." He shrugged, a small, restrained gesture. "We had supplies. We had ships. We weren't doing anything else that mattered more." She looked at him for a long moment. "Your people," she said slowly, "are going to be very difficult to understand." The ghost of something crossed his face. Not quite a smile. Something drier than that. "Give it time," Voss said. "We grow on you." In the camp behind them, the Dreth children, the ones who had been too still for too long, had begun to make noise again. Small sounds. Uncertain. Alive. Lyra turned back to watch the human ships in the sky, those brutal, graceless, magnificent things, holding high anchor between Veth Prime and whatever came next. She thought, we sent for medical aid. She thought, and they sent us something better. She thought, they sent us proof that somewhere in this galaxy, someone will come. The Arway-Kethar did not return to the outer hegemony corridor. They had been many things across their long history of conquest: patient, ruthless, practical. They were not, it turned out, suicidal. The humans had no word for what the Arway-Kethar now called them in their own language. The closest translation was something like, the ones who show up angry on behalf of strangers. The hegemony's official diplomatic record noted simply that Earth Naval Command had provided unexpected supplementary humanitarian support. Admiral Darian Voss filed the engagement as a routine humanitarian escort and went back to patrolling. Ambassador Lyra Vera filed a very different kind of report. It began, I now believe we have been misunderstanding humanity for a very long time.